Hi guys, Kai and Ben here from Villager Homes, and this is our second episode of House. You might be wondering why we've called it House. Well, we had to think of something and it just seemed so obvious we might as well call it House. And also we've been talking about where the channel is going and how what do you guys want from us, and what sort of information do you need, and so on. So Ben and I discussed what way we're going, and basically we're going to try and put out content that's relevant to the local area and what you guys really want to hear when you're looking to buy or sell, as well as then sort of a second part, which is to do more with just general topics in estate agency. So today we're going to talk about, every episode we're going to talk about a different location. So in this instance, it's Godmanchester, and we're going to call it Why Godmanchester? Why do we want to live in Godmanchester? And also we're going to be talking about the internet of estate agency. What has the internet done for estate agency? How it helps sell houses, the pitfalls of that, and all the positives. So, why Godmanchester? Ben, why Godmanchester?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. Why Godmanchester?
Why Godmanchester? I mean, it's a very desirable location for a number of reasons, but you've got so many facilities there as well. Obviously, you've got the aesthetically pleasing fact of how it looks, and obviously going on. But for many, it's a desirable location due to you've got schools, you've got surgeries, you've got dentists, you've got
it's got everything.
You've got everything you need on your doorstep. You've got access to the train lines. You've got access to motorways.
Well, let's dive into some of that. I mean, first of all, let's dive into some basic stats, which I think is, it's worth knowing. So I've done a couple of things here. So over the last 5 years, there's been 644 sales, which is a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. It's a good number. So the average value back then was 282,000. And since then, we have gone up 21.5%. So it's a nice jump. We've gone up quite a bit. And we checked that to be kind of in line of Cambridgeshire. And we've noticed actually it's gone up slightly more than the average in Cambridgeshire. So I thought that was quite good for Godmanchester. It just shows a lot. However, over the last 12 months, there's been 102 sales, so that falls into around about the same amount over 5 years. But we've gone down a little bit by just over 4% in market value of completed sales. And I mean, the obvious reasons, Brexit's kind of getting in the way of everything at the moment, and new builds are taking over, as per our last episode, as I have strong feelings about that. But Godmanchester itself, I mean, that dates back in the Roman times, and it's stacked with history, and it's got loads of architecture to it. But some of the things that you were mentioning, Ben, all the amenities, I mean, it's got three primary schools, and it feeds on to Hinchinbrook Secondary School. I actually went to GMC, Godmanchester Primary School, and then there was St Anne's, and then there's the other school that's just been built. And it's not only does it have kind of, it has the schools, but it also has all of the facilities and amenities to,
for a lot of different people with different requirements, different demographics, different ages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's got loads of like little landmarky things like the Chinese Bridge everyone knows about. Yeah. Actually, quick fact. Well, it's actually not a fact because it's completely wrong. It was thought of historically for years that, or rumoured that the Chinese Bridge was built without nails. So if you're one of those people that thinks Chinese Bridge was built without nails, it wasn't. And I think it was definitely proven somewhere in Cambridge where they stored it when they changed the bridge in 2010, I think it was something like that. So yeah, apparently the nails just, what is it called? What was it called when something just evaporates? Disintegrates, okay. But it's not disintegrates, it's something else. What does it do when it weathers over time?
Ages.
No, it's not that. It's something else. But the nails are not there anymore. Well, the nails weren't showing that they were there anymore.
We'll go with a different form of disintegration.
No, we need disintegrate. That's
what we had a minute ago.
Was it? Anyway, right, okay, so yeah, the Chinese bridge had nails, but you couldn't see them anymore because they weathered away, and everyone thought that it wasn't built with nails, but it was. So, anyway, Chinese bridge
In Godmanchester.
in Godmanchester. Yeah,
Gonna put you on the spot.
go on.
Favourite street.
Oh, that's such a good.
Favourite location.
Oh, favourite street. Okay, let me do street first. I was going to do the street that I grew up on, but that's no longer my favourite street. It's got a lot of good memories though. But I would say Post Street.
Okay.
Post Street.
For what reason?
Okay, so Post Street. Okay, the first thing that comes to my mind when you asked me that was where are all of my favourite houses and stuff. Post Street seems to have like a lot of the 18th century properties there. I mean, a lot of the original Godmanchester obviously does, but the larger scaled, most beautiful properties are there, and they usually back up onto the river. My favourite, in fact, is Island Hall. Do you know Island Hall? Yeah, it's owned by the Van Persie family, and they're really nice actually. They've been clients of ours a couple of times now, and what's so special about it is that they've managed to almost turn it into a bit of a museum. So it's got all of the history with it. And don't ask me about the history of it because I have no idea. But that's kind of part of the reason why I like Post Street, because it's got my favourite house in it. But also it's got all of the other buildings that are also beautiful and lots of architecture. It also has Sinta, which you haven't gone yet. And I will take you one day, Ben. It's the best Chinese restaurant. And I'm sure everybody that's local will agree that it is the best Chinese restaurant. Yeah, I got him nodding over there. But also, the other reason why it's my favourite street is because it's got a little bit of a twist coming up soon, and I think it's going to increase the value of Post Street quite a bit. Do you know what it is?
The bridge.
The bridge, yeah, we've been talking about it. Yeah.
Questionably desirable bridge.
Yeah, well, the great thing is about the bridge, not the Chinese bridge, the bridge that's in between Godmanchester and Huntingdon, is that's been obviously the main route to get in to Huntingdon and back. Now, because they're messing around with all the new A14 stuff, which is really, really good, there's not only going to be less traffic on that bridge, there's actually lots of discussions around that bridge becoming pedestrianised. Now, if that happens, then Post Street is essentially going to be a cul-de-sac. And you've gone from Post Street, which is a beautiful street to walk down and look at. However, it's got a lot of traffic going back and forth. And there's, like most villages when they first started out, it was just properties banged on the side of the main road, and then the main roads got busier and busier and busier over time. So essentially, you've got these lovely, big, beautiful houses with a very, very narrow pathway onto a main road. Now, that main road becomes not a main road, and it just becomes a dead end essentially, or just a way to get to back and to from houses, then you're suddenly going to have a property that's worth quite a bit more money. So, top tip: if you're looking to invest in a property and you find something that's on Post Street, I would definitely be considering it right now, because over the next couple of years, I see Post Street jumping up in value quite significantly, and there's already some people at it actually that are already aware about this. Yeah, top tip. So that's my favourite street. What about yours? Do you have one?
It's a good question. I'm going to go for Sweetings Road.
Ah, yeah, I like Sweetings Road.
I mean, there's a couple of reasons.
Okay.
We've done a few bits and pieces in there over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's become quite familiar due to that.
Do you know Sweetings Road? I was one of the first people ever in those on the new build properties when they were built. Do you know why?
Because you did a few favours for someone.
Nope. I was only a boy. I was only a young lad, and I can remember there was a girl called. I'm going to only say her first name. Her name was Nicola, and she was. This is like primary school time, and I had such a crush on her. Yeah. And she lived on Crow Hill, which was currently sort of standing. It was a really nice housing estate. We called it the posh part. And she lived there. So I would always go and visit her, and we would go out and play and walk and play curbsy and stuff like that. Anyway, they were building these houses on Sweetings Road because it didn't exist at the time, so they're building these houses. So we used to try and climb over the fence. Actually, in those days, I don't even think there was a fence. You could pretty much walk into building sites. Yeah, health and safety. You could pretty much drive the diggers around, actually. And we went for tours in some of these houses, and it was great. So I think I was...
Guided tours or just... let ourselves in tours.
Yeah, let ourselves. Let us have, I'm pretty sure it was like, I'm pretty sure we weren't allowed in there at the time.
It was just exploring.
It was just exploring, but it was fun. But anyway, yeah, so I think that I was one, other than the general contractors and builders, I was one of the first. Yeah. Anyway, why is it your favourite street?
It's a good, Godmanchester, it's got a lot going on, but the where it's located, it's got so much on its doorstep. I know Godmanchester is not massively massive. However, when it comes to Sweetings Road, you've got the primary store in walking distance. You've got secondary store, again, under 2 miles down the road if you're being a bit active, in which we don't venture too much. You can maybe jump on your bike and send them on the bike there. You've got doctor's surgeries, you've got dentists, you've just got everything on your doorstep. But also in terms of if you're looking to start a life in there, it's nice, it's quiet, it's sort of a cul-de-sac style estate, and it's somewhere where you can really start to put your roots down for whether it be 10 years, 20 years, or if you're now looking to move into the semi-retired, retired lifestyle, where you can start to finish off some of your days.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember Sweetings Road as being sort of the lovely big 4/5 bedroom detached executive houses. They always tend to have nice big gardens, nice frontage. Most of them have garages and big long drives. There was also a park not too far away, and you could also cut through an alleyway that goes to the shops. So it was really, and in fact, actually, Silver Street was a great walk to go blackberry picking. So if you lived on there, 100% you would have been walking down that passageway up Silver Street and blackberry picking, which is really good. And it's got some nice little cul-de-sacs off it, like Martin Close, again, like 5-bedroom detached executive homes.
It feels like a nice private area inside of Godmanchester.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that peace and quiet, but still everything accessible.
Yeah, it is quite special, actually. I do like that. It's a good choice.
Good pitch,
yeah, because you could have gone.
There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, there is.
I think it's an unthought of pitch.
I'll tell you the other thing about Post Street that I really like, actually, going back onto that, and that's the bakery.
Oh, yeah.
They do the best meal deals. I can't remember what the bakery's name is, though. I feel like I should have it for...
I can picture the front of it.
Yeah, it's by the shop that no one goes in.
Opposite Island Hall, pretty much.
Yep, opposite Island Hall. Yeah, but that bakery is excellent. They do great meal deals. I think it's like £3.95, sausage roll, sandwich, crisps and drink. And judging by the way that I looked on the last episode of House,
and how the new cameras are set up to avoid,
yeah, I am no longer going for the sausage rolls and instead having a piece of fruit. Hopefully that will make a difference. Yeah, the bakery. And there's actually lots of other nice places, just keeping on the amenities things about Godmanchester. There's just, well, you've got everything. So you have several hairdressers, actually. One's just recently opened. It's Salon 41, and they're really good in there, actually. It's basically like a go in and get everything done. All the ladies go in and get their nails and hair done.
Full-on pamper.
Yeah, but it's got lots of different amenities similar to that in Godmanchester as well as restaurants and pubs, or gastro pubs, as you call them these days. So it's got the exhibition, which is... well, it's brilliant. A guy called Paul runs it, and he's a really nice chap. He's always around. And then you've got the White Hart in Godmanchester. They're very known for putting way too much food on your plate, but it's always good food. And it's always good food, yeah. And it's very reasonably priced in there as well. And it's a nice place to go out on a date or with your family or something like that. And they're the Black Bull that got recently refurbished a couple of years ago. I've only been in there once since, and it seemed quite nice. And well, I should mention the Royal Oak as well, which is just over the river, actually. And it's quite nice. No, who am I kidding? It's all right. It's a good place to go for a beer, and that's about it. Yeah.
We'll leave it. That's the venue if you want to go for a drink.
Yeah,
we'll leave it there.
Yeah, I should have maybe just not mentioned it at all.
I mean, again, it's just got a lot going on with sometimes not realising what's going on in Godmanchester in terms of all of the facilities, your accessibility. Yeah. And it's just a nice place if you want to.
Yeah,
be able to touch yourself away.
Yeah, it's kind of like a big town, but not a big town. So it's got everything, but then not too much. So there's like no, if we keep on pubs and bars, there's no nightclubs and there's no like late night bars that are open. So you know, that sort of rowdy drinking thing disappears. So you don't really get that sort of atmosphere, which is really nice. And that's what's quite nice about it. You just go elsewhere for all of that sort of stuff, which is also local. And actually, what Godmanchester is really well known for is it's got so much recreational ground and green areas. I mean, it's actually, you can just walk straight onto Port Home, as you all know. It's a lovely meadow, and that links Brampton and Huntingdon. So you can just do that, go for walks around, dog walks, and you've got the locks, and you've got the river, and you've got is it Judithsfield? I can't remember these days. It's probably changed. And the recreational grounds, and then you've got different events that happen there, like picnic in the park and so on. So it's got so much stuff going for it. And not only that, it's got excellent links. And the other thing is A14. You're able to get into Cambridge quite quickly, and but we've noticed a lot of clients and customers being very interested in Godmanchester because of the access to Cambridge. And I think soon I'll be very proud to say it gives excellent links to Cambridge, because at the moment I say it like with a grit on my teeth. Yeah, because I just know that in rush hour, A14...
It's less to be desired.
Yeah, 13 miles takes about 24 hours, and it's just not the most fun commute. I can remember working in Cambridge and living in Godmanchester, and my average day was about an hour and 15 to get there. But when the A14 is built... Well, not built. I mean, when the new A14 is built, yeah, that's right. And then the current A14 turns into more of a access road. Then I would like to think that sort of hour and 10 plus will turn into 20 to 30 minutes.
So half dramatically.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, the Highways Agency have been fairly pessimistic actually on the time difference, but it's got to be a lot different, because there's going to be no lorries. There's going to be no major traffic going on that. So fingers crossed for that anyway, and I look forward to that. That should be open in 2020.
I think so.
Yeah, so I mean that's our thoughts on Godmanchester really. I think you can buy some lovely properties there, everything from brand new builds to character houses, and at the moment for very reasonable prices. There's quite a bit out on the market. I had a look earlier on. And there's some beautiful period properties, which I absolutely love, on the market. And there's one on Post Street. I've forgotten what estate agent it's on with. Do you remember? It's the Red House. It's worth a look anyway. It's on for something like 500,000 on with another agent. And it's a bargain. At that price...
It's a goer.
Yeah, at that price, someone should be snapping that up, especially with the fact that in a couple of years' time, it could be...
increase potentially a considerable amount.
Yeah, it could be good. Yeah, it really could. So, before we sort of go off the topic of Godmanchester, there's a special mention actually to Captain Tim. Captain Tim.
The new mascot.
No. Okay. Is that what we're calling the mascot now?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we could call him Captain... Yeah, we'll name our mascot Captain Tim from Captain Tim. Obviously, you don't know who Captain Tim is. Captain Tim is the guy that has a ferry boat that you genuinely worry if it's going to make it from A to B because it's so old. And he will drive you on a boat. Is it drive?
You can drive a boat.
Drive a boat. So he would drive you on his ferry boat from Godmanchester to Brampton, and then you could go and have like something to eat, drinks, family meal, or a couple of beers or something like that, and then he would take you back. And it's like a nice little Sunday afternoon out.
Chauffeur service.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And he charges you like £3 or a beer, whichever he prefers, depending on the day, I guess. And it's really, really good. And I definitely recommend Captain Tim.
Captain Tim.
Yeah, if you're ever out, if it's a nice sunny day and you're out in Godmanchester or along the wreck, and you just fancy trying something else, Captain Tim's number is on like Facebook or something. If you just Facebook Captain Tim Godmanchester, his mobile number will come. You call him, he'll come out to pick you up for pennies, and he will take you to the pub, and then you go there and have a meal, and it's just a great day out. It's just something different.
He'll run you around.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So that's a wrap on Godmanchester. I think next week we're going to try Buckton, actually. So if you are listening now and you're interested in what's going on in Buckton, and if it's a good or a bad place to live, look out for the next video. That will be in 2 weeks' time. So onwards and upwards, Ben. What's the next subject?
It's going to interlock into Godmanchester to an extent.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is we're going to look into sort of how estate agency how it's evolved, sort of under the bracket of the internet of estate agency. And I mean, the reason why I say it's going to interlock into Godmanchester is it's going to be, if anyone's interested in purchasing Godmanchester, this is going to help guide them into that process. I mean, as the world evolves, as everything changes, so does estate agency, so does how we find them, so does how we communicate with them, and so does how we find new properties. And I suppose it's now started to understand, if I was buying a property 10, 15, 20 years ago, what do I need to look at now that's different? What do I need to consider? And just how do I go about this? So, I mean, when it was a case, and you'll have a lot more into this than myself, Kai, when it was a case maybe 10 years ago, when you were operating as an estate agent or as a client or as a buyer, typically speaking, the biggest ways in which you could communicate with each other, it's going to be by the phone, or it's going to be by them jumping into the office. But now, you've just got so many different options. I mean, how do we communicate with everyone? I mean, we've got phone, we've got email, we've got WhatsApp.
Yeah,
we've got
Facebook,
we've got
Instagram,
YouTube, comments. We've even got Skype for any international business clients we worked with. So it's doubled, if not tripled, the means and the ways in which we can communicate. Some would say it's more of a hindrance because there's so many different channels and people don't know what to do and how to direct them. I personally would say it's a step forward. And it's a way that everything needs to go and you need to maintain it all. I mean, you could be out and about walking the dog and think, okay, I've seen a property I like, how can I inquire? It's pick up the phone and can do this. So we've gone from the age of having to walk into these estate agents, which is still fantastic, it's that face-to-face communication. I mean, one of us is always there. But we can now just pick up the phone wherever we are, whatever we're doing, and have that communication. From your side, what do you feel in line with that? Do you feel it's a hindrance that people no longer so much come in and have these face-to-face conversations in the office? Or do you see that as a positive?
Oh, it's all... There's positives and negatives of both. I think the way that we are going now, we sort of always on our smartphones, so we're always sort of having a look on Rightmove. The majority of people that are interested have got the Rightmove app on their phone and so on. In fact, actually, just plug in your webinar, which is on our Facebook, if you are interested in learning how some tips on Rightmove, some sort of more advanced way of looking. There's a webinar on our Facebook, and it's worth trying to find that actually. To answer your question, it's a really long answer, and it's actually just a topic, isn't it? So
communication's key. I suppose the biggest thing, yes, the industry's evolving, but I suppose it's a benefit, if anything, for owners of properties and for potential buyers, because as the industry evolves and there are so many channels now to communicate, all it means and what should happen, and this is me, I can speak for our experience ourselves, and I would like to speak for every single other agent out there, but it's just going to increase customer service. It means that as there's so many different ways to get hold of us, it means that we can be more responsive. We can do this quicker. I mean, it's quicker for me to, if I'm out and about, send an email back on my phone while I'm jumping between appointments than it is for me to wait till I get back to the office to make a phone call. So it's speeding up service as well, which has to be a positive.
Yeah, but like looking at it in a slightly more old school thing, I think it can make us lazy. So there's two different aspects to this conversation, isn't there? It's the what it's done to increase the productivity of an agent selling properties, and what has it done for a customer to find properties, right?
Yes.
So there's two separate things here, isn't there? So the productivity part, they're stuck on this bit, right? So the productivity of estate agents. I think that it's made us a bit lazy, personally. All of this prop tech, basically property technology, all of the new CRMs that are now available for estate agents that do lots of things automatically. They link customers to properties and tenants to properties and landlords to different bits of information. Yeah, it does all of that for you. And I think things can become slightly lost in in that system. And because we're relying on it so much, we don't see that. We can't see that buyer has been forgotten because it's not in the correct match criteria, or that property is not getting matched to a big portal of buyers, and so on and so on. So, I mean, back in the day, I'll just say this. Back in the day, there was no PC on my desk. I say back in the day like it was 100 years ago. I'm not actually that old. But, okay, we're talking only 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I remember working at an estate agent's locally in Cambridge, and we didn't have a computer on the desk. Computers were a big no-no. Actually, the only computer in the office was the administrator, and he or she would have that computer basically just to be able to... the administrator would have that computer basically just to do the bog standards, sending out sales pro formas, and so on and so on and so on. So the actual estate agency selling houses part was done with no technology at all. We had a little box with loads of cards in it, and each card was a buyer. So it was like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, address, budget, X to Y, looking in this area. And that was it. And we had them different people had them ordered in different ways. I had mine in location and price. And then we would have a telephone. And that was it. A new property would come onto the market. In fact, actually, back then, this is the pitfall of the new technology these days, because I can remember the days where the lister, who's someone that goes and values the property, would come back into the office and he'd be like, "Great guys, I've got this property on the market. Sell, 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 sell." And we'll be so keen. We're like, "Yes, excellent." So there's no photos taken. All we've got is a description. It's a 4-bedroom detached house in, I don't know, Great Shelford. And we were like, right, okay. So everyone's running through their buyers, trying to find that perfect buyer for that perfect property. And like, we're calling up the owners, and like, you know, the listers only just got back from the office, and we're already calling up the owner saying, "Please can we have a viewing? Please can we have a viewing?" And they'll be like, "Well, we haven't even signed a contract yet," but they'd allow it anyway. And that's how we would deal with it. We wouldn't even care about Rightmove or photos going on or anything like that. And nowadays, the difference is, and some agents rely so much on technology that they're super lazy. They just don't do that sort of stuff anymore. I like to think that we still do it, right?
It's just finding that 50% balance.
So nowadays, you've got the fact that you've lost a week from the day that the lister comes back into the office.
Until it launches.
It's got to go onto the system, or the photos got to be uploaded, and then it clicks launch, and then it gets emailed out to all of the buyers. So those lazy agents that are just relying on someone to contact them almost based on an automated service. So that's the productivity thing. So the good thing is that it can ping things like text messages and emails, and it shows them some great photos or videos, and you can get it straight onto their smartphones and so on. The bad thing is there's not really that urgency, there's not that personal service that you can get just from having a little hot box of buyers. So that's the productivity part, in my view. Do you kind of concur?
Yeah, I agree. I think from productivity, there's arguments for and against. I think from the consumer point of view, I think for them, in terms to be able to chase and contact and find things, it's growing as a positive.
Yeah.
There's so many channels, but I mean, as well, there's so many different sides to this. There's obviously the communication and productivity, which we've touched on. And obviously, you've slightly touched into Rightmove. But from now, how someone can find a property versus how they used to 10, 15 years ago, surely this is now got to be an improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, 10, 15 years ago, as you've touched on, they're finding a property, whether you phone them up through your hotboxing, they've maybe nipped into the local estate agents, a newspaper or a postcard in the local shop. Quite a manual process. And I mean, you'd have to go out your way really to do that. It's not something you can do really sporadically. Whereas now we've got Rightmove, we've got Zoopla, we've got On the Market, we've got every estate agent has an own website. Obviously, there's villageofhomes.co.uk where everything's listed for us. And there's all these different sources. With this as well, as you mentioned with the webinar, there's the ability for anyone to jump in, put in what their criteria looks like, and then be automatically, I know you mentioned there's a slight pitfall of the automated outreach. However, in this case, when it comes to Rightmove, being able to put in your criteria, price and where you're looking for, and automatically be emailed these properties. That's just putting everyone at the front of their queue for those property searches.
Yeah.
And it's keeping them in the front.
No, they're not at the front though, are they? We've got to mention there's Zoopla and on the market as well. But no, they're not at the front because actually they are putting their details in, and they're only getting the details of the property once it's made live, because that's when it's done. So
it
actually,
depends on the estate agent, how productive they are.
So I would say the buyers that are at the front of the queue for me are the ones that I am dealing with on a daily basis. So they've come to me, they've said, Kai, find me a house. And I'm like, okay, what do you want? And they're giving me like some really crazy criteria that's almost impossible to fulfill. But I go for it anyway, or try and broaden it a little bit. But and actually a great example is, so this is like a scenario of I feel like a good job, which was only a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure the customer and client's not going to mind me mentioning the vague address. He went to view a property with us. It had river frontage. It was on the market for 1.2. Really liked it, but he just wasn't 100% there on it, and it was in Godmanchester anyway. He wasn't 100% on it. There was another one in Godmanchester with another agent that he was also interested in, but he wasn't 100% on it. And he came to me and he said, Kai, there's got to be another property with river frontage. I don't want the mooring. I just want a nice view. And I said to him, okay, let me go and have a look. Where's your ideal locations, honestly? And he said, well, Millcommon. I would love a property in Millcommon. So I went back to the database, which is really easy to find properties for historically. I had a look at valuations from a couple of years ago. I found one. I actually looked at the notes, and the notes suggested that the property is going to come on in 2020, which is when the new A14 comes down. And I said, well, okay, Mr. Customer, I've got this house. It's not on the market yet until next year. This is the value. Would you be interested in viewing it? Yeah. Call the client or potential client. Client, is it okay to show this customer a year early your property? Yep. And match them up, and he's offered on the property. It's been accepted, and that all happened about a week and a half ago. And that is just a great example of
how the human intuition around.
Yeah, but that's what it was like all the time in the old days. And now it's sort of like, I don't know, 25%. Because we're still relying so much on prop tech. But you're right, from the customer's point of view.
From a consumer point of view.
It's
evolved, but it's just ensuring that the agents keep up with that and keep delivering the service which should be expected with that, and not thinking, okay, I've got a system that's going to send out X, Y, and Z to a list of 50 people in 10 days' time, when really I should be doing it now.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's arguments for and against the positivities of the market changing. Again, it's just keeping it in line with the service. It comes down to ensuring customer service keeps up and maintains while everything else evolves, and with the growing world of obviously automated intelligence technology and everything around that, it's just not thinking actually.
Yeah, I think the world needs both. And actually, this is something I wasn't going to mention because I'm a high street agent and it's biased, but there is a classic argument at the moment: should you use an online estate agent versus a high street agent? But then we could argue that, well, we're high street agents and we're online, so we're hybrid. We do both. But I think the main difference is just the thing that I mentioned a minute ago, or well, we both mentioned, and that's the lack of that personal interaction and that attention to detail, because otherwise you're just part of a CRM, you're just part of a...
And it's just being a cog in that wheel.
Exactly.
It's not being an actual person, it's being a number on a board.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yeah. And it makes a huge difference. So clients, they always... I've had so many conversations with clients that have asked me... why is the difference? So this is something that I really wasn't going to touch on, but I'm going there now anyway. Why do fees vary so much between high street agents and online estate agents? Well, it's simple. High street agents get more money for your property than online estate agents. And the next question is, why? Well, it's because, first of all, we can create urgency. We also understand what buyers locally want that property, and we can sell that property to those buyers in the way that they want it to be sold to. Secondly, we know absolutely everything about the area and everything about the property. So we can give not only a tour of the property, but a tour of the area.
We explain to them what Godmanchester, for instance, we can explain to them what those local facilities are. depending on where it's based.
And that's worth something. The knowledge of all of that is worth something to that person. It makes them want the property more, which essentially makes them want to pay more. So that is the difference between, I mean, yeah, just to cut that off, because I don't want to go down that road. I mean, that we could be on this for hours, but just to cut that off, that is the big difference. Okay, so high street agents just achieve more for a property than online agents if they were trying to sell the exact property. And that's not just me saying that. There is like statistics all over the place at the moment proving that with all different agencies and so on and so on and so on. But yeah, anyway, away from that bit.
Away from the sales spiel.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've looked at ways to communicate. We've looked at ways to find properties. Final touch point, which also links into last episode, ways of purchasing. This is continually evolving. I mean, when you first purchased your property, Kai, or your first property, I should say, how many options can you think off the top of your head that you had to finance that? Not in which that you were physically able to do, but in terms of off the bat, how many options?
I mean, it was first property was beg, borrow, steal, deposit money off
family,
parents,
friends,
and get a mortgage.
Yeah,
that was it.
So really, you've got two options really. Yeah. It's finance a deposit through support if possible, and then your mortgage, or if you were in a better position, then it's throw it all out there, buy cash.
Yeah.
So you've got two options. Now you've got, obviously, like we discussed last week, shared ownership. Help to buy equity loan, help to buy ISA, still mortgage, which is starting to evolve into a different topic for a different day, but that's starting to evolve into different formats. And then again, still your cash buy. So we've gone from 2 to 5, which is a phenomenal difference in the space of that 10 years. And again, that will just continue to grow and continue to give people more choice, more flexibility. With that in mind, do you feel, I mean, I've got an opinion on this, which I'll share in a moment, but when it comes to actually now purchasing these properties, is it making it more confusing for these buyers because they've got so many different options that, again, they may not be aware of completely, or should it just be simplistic?
No, I think it's great that they have all of these. Well, I mean, it's great that they have all of these options, but I think it's great that they're able to access a huge database of the country's properties all at one time. Yeah. So whereas there's more packages, there's more properties to see. And again, going back in the day, everybody used to buy properties using newspapers or actually looking in the shop window, or the best way, and it's still the best way, I encourage anybody to do it, to walk into the estate agency and have a conversation about what they want. Don't just rely on Rightmove, because that's how you find the properties that never show on Rightmove, but they sell because we've got lots of other people that do that, and then we sell it to them. But yeah, so back in the old days, you had the newspapers, you had the shop window, and you had walking in and having that personal touch. And then the agents' tools were basically to put properties in newspapers, put properties in their front window, create sort of pamphlets, leaflets of all of the properties in one thing to hand out to any potential buyer that walked in, and call them on a regular basis. And that was all the tools that they had. And it did work. There was actually a lot of transactions, and they all worked quite seamlessly, really. The majority of them did. So now we have online. So we've got Rightmove, Zoopla.
On the market.
I mean, they're the three big players at the moment. And on those three portals, we have, I would probably say, I wish I got the stat for this, I don't know if you do, but I imagine there's at least 95% of the properties that are currently marketed on those three portals. Yeah, in the UK, 95% plus of those properties
are all going to be
on one or all of those portals. Yeah. So, with that being said, people get access to, say, if I'm living in Brampton and I want to move to Bath, I don't have to drive all the way over to Bath anymore and pick up their local newspaper and pop into the office and all that sort of stuff, because I can just scan online for different properties. Yeah, so that's where it's really helped, because it's obviously given people, it's given clients the exposure that they really truly deserve, and it's given buyers the opportunity to really
reach without travelling to do so.
Yeah, but also what the online world has done is created transparency on property prices, values.
Yes. For example, you can easily find an average street price, an average property price through Zoopla.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, which helps the whole trust, because if a property is priced at X and they can see that other properties sold at X, around the same figure.
If, for instance, someone goes in and tries to sell it for 100,000 more,
yeah, exactly.
Simple bluff.
Yeah, so it's all quite relative now, and I think that's quite nice because it has created that exposure. I still think though that the most important thing for all buyers to do is to make contact directly
with an agent, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even if it is a case in which they're going to go for the online experience, which, I mean, it's questionable in our opinions. It's just have a conversation with a retailer, a high street estate agent first, to have that more information. All they're going to do is put themselves in a better situation, better position, regardless of which way they go down, because they've got the full picture.
Yeah, and right, okay. So let's move on then. So what's next? So we've got the basics of online estate agency, haven't we? Yeah. So we've got the fact that there's loads of prop tech around, and it's making us lazy if we're not too careful. And there's loads of opportunities now for consumers or customers to find whatever they want just by clicking online or on their phone, and so on and so on and so on. So we've got all that. So what's the next steps? What do we do because we're constantly evolving, aren't we? We're constantly trying new things to adapt to give a better experience to our customers and to for our clients to think, wow, I want you to do that for a property. So I feel like over the last 2 or 3 years, estate agents have started to pick up on social media. It's starting to happen now.
Starting to work with the image of just your first.
Yeah.
It's give as much as you can to the public, to your clients, to your customers, all the knowledge available, whether it be through, for instance, conversations like this and podcasts and channel promotion, whether it be through a blog post, Facebook articles. I think it is a case in the way that it should evolve, and this is my personal opinion, that it needs to be, regardless of if an estate agent, and this has been quite open, sees a potential 6-month benefit from it, or whether there's no benefit from it, it's still supply that information, as all we're doing is helping someone out. Providing that information, putting them in a better position, and then it's making them aware of everything.
Yeah, it's just getting, it's not just aware, it's so they've got instant access to everything all the time. So like Facebook, I can't remember if it was a year or a year and a half ago, they've done a deal with On the Market, which is one of the portals that we've been talking about. Now, On the Market actually link properties from their portal onto Facebook. So on Facebook Marketplace now, you can buy a property, or you could at very least arrange a viewing on a property. Now that is next level. That is taking social media to the next level. With there's like the eBay style with cars and so on and so on. But we're now talking about properties. People's biggest assets can be sold and bought on Facebook. And do you think that this is actually the way that it's going? Do you feel honestly that there will soon become a point where we are just like how travel agencies went, where they're no longer leaded and you can just go on to lastminute.com and book your flights to a thing?
I don't think so. I think the reason why is, I mean, if I decide I want to go on holiday to, for instance, throughout country, South Africa, I can jump onto Google, I can research South Africa, I can research everything directly there and then, and I don't need to have a conversation. If I decide I want to buy a property in Godmanchester, and if I want to learn about the background of that property, if I want to know how it's been maintained, what the neighbours are like, I can't find that information on Google.
Yeah.
So I think with that in mind,
you need that local agent.
You need someone to be able to speak to, understand the surroundings, like you mentioned, understand the background of the property, understand definitive information about where the market's going, what the markets look like. And in some cases, if you're buying a house, you're coming from somewhere. So it may be the case in which you need advice on what to do with your current property. You can't find that from a random Google article. Yes, there's people online that can throw out blogs, there's these websites that may have a live chat, but typically speaking, they're just going to give you the same throw-out answer every single time.
Yeah.
I think it's something where people, because they're spending such a vast amount of money as well, they need to put their confidence and trust into having an engagement.
Yeah, that's. I asked the question, but that would have been my answer as well. And I think there'll always be a need for a local representative that knows and has all the knowledge of that area or that property to actually sell the property.
Well, you do think as well that I've had a couple of conversations over the last couple of weeks with interested parties, I'll say. The only reason they've been interested in potentially putting their house on the market and looking at a new property is from seeing for sale and sold signs.
Yeah.
If the high street agent goes, a lot of the time these signs goes, I know, yes, some of the online do put these out, but not many of them do.
No.
And then that takes them away, that takes their potential awareness away, and it just leaves them stuck in where they are, thinking I might want to move, but then... I
just realised we're falling back into the online versus high street argument, and it's so hard because you just keep on falling into it. It's hard, but we're not going to go there. 100% not going in high street versus online.
I think to cut out that point, it's what it does. It is, as well, yes, say high street agent, they have their office, which anyone can come into, but they create more awareness around the properties by these signs, by being in and out of them, by talking to random members of the public.
Yeah.
And it's just that awareness and having someone's always going to trust a face-to-face conversation. I mean, this is me, but I'm going to trust someone more that I sit down at a table with if I want to buy something.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to trust them if I'm sat on a phone.
So what, I mean, let's look at the sort of hardware that we've got these days. So, I mean, the important things that I feel is... Okay, most importantly, that personal touch, all the knowledge. Okay, so let's forget all that. Stick to just what we can do online, yeah. So we've got photos, the write-up, floor plans, videos, yeah? Videos. Yeah. So, and we're actually quite restricted by those, arguably, because Rightmove's current software, or CRM, unfortunately doesn't allow much more. So we would like to do things like interactive virtual tours of properties and so on and so on, but it's just not ready yet. And I think the more that social media, prop tech and social media start communicating, I feel like there will be a lot more possibilities to launch that sort of stuff. I mean, at the moment we're doing this, we're doing videos of some of our really fantastic properties, and we're actually then paying for those to be advertised all over Google and boosting them on social media and so on to just get maximum exposure, and just setting up the funnels correctly just to really kind of find buyers from everywhere that's probably not even thought about that specific location.
And then also the back end of that is how it can then end up picking up on other sites.
Yeah, that's right. So what's next then? Do we, I mean, TikTok. So there's a really interesting property influencer that started to use TikTok. Have you heard of TikTok?
I have.
It's an app that kids use, basically. But anyway, he's on that now, and he promotes all sorts of different stuff about himself, basically as a mentor for various different things in business or in life. I think it's more like a life coach, actually. And one of the videos that I saw him do was saying, "I'm on TikTok." Probably about a year and a half early, but I think it's the right thing to do. Get established now on TikTok, because it's going to be it's going to be massive. You know what? Facebook became massive, but originally it was something for kids. Or well, actually, it was university, wasn't it? But you know, the younger generations, and now it's blown up. Same as Instagram and same as Snapchat and all of these other things, and they're great channels to get information out, whatever that may be. So, okay, it could be. I'm hoping that in a year and a half, 2 years' time, what I'm about to say is right. But properties will be sold on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Or even they'll be established on these channels to find the awareness for them to then have the conversations with the agents. Yeah,
and I think people will rely... You broke your mic. After that mic fault, we are now back. But where was I? Yeah, so... TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. It's going to be, a couple of years' time, all houses will be for sale on there. And
even with Snapchat, for instance.
I do, because I think it's
got subscriber channels. What's to stop someone setting up a Villager Homes Snapchat channel, and it's just quick snapshots of the day when we're at different properties. There's so many different things you can do with it.
It's just getting information at fingertips. And I also think that virtual tours will be a big thing, which I'm looking into already to try and invest in. And I think property videos is really started to come about now. Yeah, so I think more than one agent's
starting to operate.
Yeah, are doing that now. So it's quite good. So yeah, I mean, just to summarise,
the world's moving forward. The world's moving forward. Technology's moving forward, but the customer service still stays.
Yeah, that's
the way
it.
it's got to be.
Yeah. I mean, you can have all of this lovely technology in front of you,
if
but
no one supporting it on the back end, it's just redundant.
No, on the front end, no one's supporting on the front end. We need to be at the front line. The PC behind us in front, and being that person that they can communicate with and talk to on a daily basis about what they want, when they want, where they want.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, so I think that's a wrap for today. So as I was saying, on the next episode, we are going to be talking a bit about Buckton, as well as another topic. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like to put any comments or feedback below on the video, please do. And thank you, everybody, for the motivation in your messages from the last video, which is our first video. I really appreciate that. So thank you, guys. And I look forward to a fortnight's time. Thanks very much.